Tom will show up.
In person?
And no, online,
That's what.
but I haven't heard from him. Yes, thank you, Andy. So, begin the meeting and declare a quorum. We do have 5 of our 7. Nadine is traveling for work this week, but she will be here on Saturday. Or Sunday, sorry, Sunday.
Don't close that.
Yeah. And so we'll open for public comment, but I don't see any members of the public here and none online. So close public comment. And now consider approval of the meeting minutes for July 15th, which are on page 2 of your packet. Any comments about those? If not, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Sylvia said aye as well. And so the meeting minutes are approved. I won't say, anybody opposed? Sorry. No, okay, thank you. I'll get my act together. Feels like it's been a long time since we've met. So.
And I moved over.
Just the normal.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, yeah, I kind of on the edge here, thank you. Okay, so the idea presentation.
Yeah, Aida Flores, you've met before, she's broken the group before on the equity plan. There's just an update today that we wanted to fill you in. There's nothing you need to vote on. It's really informative, but feel free to ask questions. And Aida, without further ado, thanks for being.
Well, thank you all for having me here. It's nice to see you all. I'm going to present 2 things. We have 2 updates about that are also part of our strategy that we presented last time, but this time we're just changing our acronym from EDI to an acronym that is IDEA. Why did we do that? Because IDEA better represents the interconnected nature of these principles. We think that by putting the I before the rest, it invites people into action. Inclusion fosters belonging, diversity brings multiple perspectives, equity ensures fair treatment, and accessibility, which completes our mission. So we're working together with the accessibility team in many projects, and I think it's important to have them on board in our acronym since it's impacting the whole thing as part of an inclusive workplace. And there's another reason that is also important to see that most of the staff were like, okay, we don't totally connect with EDI since EDI, if you Google it, it's kind of a acronym for some type of electronic company. And then we thought about DEI, but we thought, okay, everybody talks about DEI, and we wanted something that was our own thing and more like our own signature, let's say. So that's those are the reasons that took us to change this acronym. Like I said, inclusion puts action and intention at the center of what we do. Inclusion is the culture that we want to have, where everybody just feels welcome and respected. And therefore, we think that by putting inclusion first, it creates that foundation that we're looking for our diversity to grow. So that's practically why we change it. We actually also like the part of the idea thing, like, okay, now everybody's getting into, let's go to the idea team. It's more fun to connect as well. So I'm going to stop here just to see what you think about it before I move to the mission statement, to see what do you think.
I think it sounds great. It sounds logical.
I have a question. Was this brainstormed with, like what group came with these changes?
Yeah, we discussed it first with the idea team, co-chairs and the rest of the team. Then we review it with Libby, the HR director, and that's the process that we followed. We have this posted in our website. I'm going to share as soon as I finish a link so you can explore the website. It's totally updated. We have everything we have done during the year. We have the acronym, why we changed it, the reasoning behind it. We have the strategy posted there, all the training recordings that we have had along these months. So we practically have everything there, and I think it would be great if you can just explore and see what you think. And you will be able to find this as well.
Did it have anything to do with the EDI team wanting to change their name to the IDEA team? Or you to change your name, your title from EDI coordinator to the IDEA coordinator?
Exactly, because now when I say AIDA coordinator, like IDEA coordinator, that sounds kind of weird. It was kind of, yeah, I'm still getting used to it. I think it came a little bit of both. First, I'm used to the DEI because of my background and my experience. Everything was DEI, right? It's everywhere. But when I got here with EDI, I struggle a little bit just to change that part. But I used to search EDI as well, and I found this electronic company, and it was kind of like, okay, that's not what we want to see. So it started a little bit with a conversation with 2-3 people from the team, and then we just brought it up to the rest of them. We make it different from the rest. I think that's pretty cool too. We like to be disruptive.
Any more comments on that? We can move to the mission statement or?
Yes. Okay, the mission statement.
Okay.
I'm going to see if I can, because, well, is it okay if I just read it?
Yes.
Okay. So the one that we have in the handbook is this one. The Boulder Public Library District is committed to fostering an environment of inclusion, equity, and accessibility where all our diverse pool of talent, regardless. Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading the new one. I apologize. I'm going back. Previous one. In the handbook, the library is committed to advancing equity, diversity, and inclusion. We will continuously strive to include these diverse perspectives, draw upon unique skills and experiences, and honor identity-based differences. Our work to instill these values in programs, customer service, and internal practices and culture is ongoing. We rely on the contributions of everyone in our organization to create an environment of belonging, satisfaction, and growth for our staff and our community. Now, how are we evolving? And we're planning to move our mission statement is to Boulder Public Library District is committed to fostering an environment of inclusion, equity, and accessibility where all our diverse pool of talent, regardless of ancestry, color, creed, gender identity, immigration status, marital status, mental disability, national origin, physical disability, race, religion, sexual orientation, and source of income. We want people to feel seen, heard, valued, respected, and supported. We believe that a diverse and inclusive workplace is essential to creating a welcoming space where everyone has equal access to knowledge, resources, and opportunities for personal and professional growth. Our employees are part of a vibrant, uplifting workplace culture that honors the joy and commitment of meaningful public service while still caring for the needs of the individual. Individuals can confidently share their culture, personal and professional identities without concern for discrimination or microaggression. Together, we can build a more equitable internal community where diversity is celebrated and inclusion is a practice of every day. I know it's longer, but we think that it better reflect who we are and now and the kind of library staff that we want to keep building together. The old statement did a very good job of expressing the commitment we have towards equity, diversity, inclusion, but we felt it was time to make it like a little bit more clear in terms of more specific and with a more, like I said, with the acronym, a more action-oriented. We want it to be more inclusive. Now we are including most of the identities and life experiences because we want everybody to be seen in it. We're adding accessibility since, like I said, it's a crucial pillar for us. And staff also need to be able to fully use those benefits and understand what is accessibility for them. And another important point is showing how we put values into action, which is instead of just stating the values, we talk about how we live them. You know, how we also make it clear that discrimination and microaggressions have no place there. So it's not only a concept of what diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility is, but how we have to be clear in terms of there is no room for us to discriminate or use any type of microaggressions, and reflecting our community and our staff as something that is constantly evolving, which is how we close that statement. So I'm going to pause here just to understand what you think about it.
I wondered about, did you?
Go ahead, yeah.
I know it's long, but it's
I wondered about a couple things, just the use of the word disability, and I wondered about just using the positive of that. So instead of mental disability, but mental ability, and physical disability instead of that physical ability, as opposed to presuming the negative. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you put like physical disability, and then we have
mental disability too.
Disability, and yeah, because we want to acknowledge every type of abilities of disabilities. It doesn't matter if you have a disability, but also there are a lot of abilities that we have, and we want to embrace everyone's. It's still like part of skills and talents that each person has. So that's why sometimes we state also the abilities of the persons of people and also the disabilities.
But we're not stating the ability. You only have disability there.
We don't have the ability
I
there?
think she was suggesting instead of mental disability, say mental ability.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And physical
That's
ability.
oh no, then that's a typo because that might be a mental disability.
No, it says mental disability in the packet.
Oh.
And she was suggesting instead of saying mental disability, to say mental ability as more inclusive of it, make it a positive instead of a.
Instead of putting okay, the connotation, that's what you mean. So instead of using the mental disability, we should just switch to mental ability. Okay, yes. Yeah,
and physical.
And physical
and
ability.
physical.
And physical ability. Yeah, okay. Actually, you're right, because physical ability was supposed to be there. Yeah.
Okay, good. So,
but I never thought about the mental one, but I'm going to include it. Yeah.
Okay. And then the other point relates to source of income. And I've most typically seen like either economic status or something more in that vein as opposed to source of income. That just seems a little awkward to me.
Is it more common to use socioeconomic status?
Or just economic status? I think that's what you're getting at instead of source of income.
Yeah.
Or prosperity. I mean, it could be any of those things.
I think source of income is I know it's used in legal, for like, you can't discriminate for housing based on sources of income, so that's one area, but I think, economic status. Look at the same. It's something for you guys to consider, I think.
So do you think it would be better just socioeconomic status maybe?
Or economic status.
Yeah, because we want to, it's more related into, I don't know if that's correct, in Spanish is clasismo, which is classism, so it's most like going that way. So maybe socioeconomic status makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that.
My only, I think the way you've drafted this sets a pretty high bar for the library, I think. And so, I guess, we might be held to that, you know what I mean? So, not that that's a bad thing,
Yeah.
but I just, you know, when we think about it, we're setting up ourselves a high bar here or the library is setting itself a high bar to do it. And I think we have the people to do it. I just, you know, that's my one comment about it. We're gonna be judged against it, and maybe that's a good challenge for us. So,
The last paragraph is something we go over with staff at every orientation. So
Okay.
it's a big deal, it's not every employer,
mhm.
but we're committed to it. I have a question, Jennifer.
No.
They
No,
don't put on the handbook, right?
Mm,
all right.
yeah.
Anybody other comments?
We like to challenge ourselves, but let's see how it goes. I think we can do it. Very
Well, I'm
positive about it.
glad, you know, that
Yeah.
my first, you know, you've been in this role for a year and a half, almost a year. And so I'm glad that you guys are making it your program as the district and you're, you know, challenging yourselves, and I'm happy for that.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to post it just there in case you just want to read and go through it. I'm going to modify what we just talked about today. But if you have any other feedback, welcome to listen.
Thank you, Aida.
Thank you so much. Is that it? You need me? Okay. Well, bye Jennifer, bye everybody. Bye Celia.
Bye.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I'm gonna text Tom, maybe he's in a different area code and messed up the.
Maybe he's trying to get down Canyon Boulder.
Or any street in Boulder. Well, Broadway's going down to one lane now, it's like
I haven't noticed on my bike.
yeah, you're fortunate.
Sort of stale.
It's just a mess everywhere.
See?
Fall in a hole. Whether they've opened up the night before. Okay, sorry. Anita stepped out, but we can keep going. If you have any-
Jennifer's gonna present on a couple of
Yeah.
different things, the Boulder Civic Area Plan, the Boulder Valley Comprehensive Plan, which she's like.
Yeah, pretty much all of 99% of what I know about these is in your slides. But I'm happy to take back comments or questions to the city leadership that's running these projects. And that's who I met with to get this information. So we'll start with the civic area. So that's the park area outside of this building, and it stretches all the way down to where the farmer's market is. Right now, the project is in the concept and schematic design, space activation, and governance plan and engagement windows 3 and 4. They will start finalizing things after they finish compiling the input that they have collected. There was a deadline of August 11th to submit your comments. We also had a big poster of the civic area in our lobby. I don't know if we had it in any other library locations, but we did have it here.
We did it other realms.
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay. So they were collecting ideas or like your favorite area of the civic area project so that they could decide where they're going to invest their money. They have a limited amount of money, and so they can't do the whole plan at once. And so they kind of wanted to get some information from the community about where to start. David had some information that I didn't get, and it's that I believe that the work is probably going to start at the east end of the civic area rather than more investment here. Because this out here was phase 1. So I'm just going to go to open my screen. Oh shoot. I was hoping this would take us to the map. Sorry about that. So, I don't think I can get us to the map very quickly. Anyways, you can go on the city's website and search for the civic area project and look at there's 4 different zones. Library is part of the west end zone, that's the green up in the left corner, top left corner. And then the zone 2 is Boulder Beach, so that's along the creek out in front of where the parking lot is. It includes a nature hub, which is like a place where they might have a park ranger stationed. And the beach is meant to be access to the creek. Then they have zone 3, East End is what they call it. That's where they're calling a road something like Marketplace Avenue or they have some special name for where they're going to make a somewhat permanent vehicle-free area for the farmer's market. And then one of these buildings over here at I don't know if you can see my cursor up there, is going to be a year-round marketplace. And just below that, the other building is going to be a mixed-use retail shops. And their intention is to really, if they invest in this area, to focus it and really activate it year-round and every day, all day. They're also planning a parking structure somewhere over there amongst one of those buildings. And then the 4th zone is the connection between the civic area and CU. And so the feature of that is a boardwalk walkway for pedestrians, so it separates bikes from pedestrians. So I was part of a meeting that had several members of business owners around this area. Tea House, there was the architect from CU, and some other folks that own businesses nearby giving input. I asked about what changes they had in mind for around the library. They have in mind to, and this is probably not going to be in this phase, but in the plan they have replacing our skate park underneath the library with a art tunnel that's supposed to be lighted and cool. And they're going to, their plan is to reduce parking, the parking lot on Arapahoe. They're saying that they might reduce it by 1/3, I think.
They show on the drawings is almost by half.
Yeah, so, but they plan to replace and then some parking in the parking structure that's just down the sidewalk or down the block from that. Yes, and so we have, both David and I have expressed our concern with, don't take away our parking before you build the parking structure. Because you're not gonna have happy people.
Well, they're also, looks like they're removing the parking on those, Mustard's last stand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And getting rid of Mustard's last stand
Yeah,
in like years.
Yeah, so this is important.
Yeah.
And in the city, and honestly, I want to say first, like, it's a great plan, right? I believe it's a great plan.
Yeah.
The city does great planning, but there are a lot of parts here that will impact our strategy over the next 3 to 5 years. And so I want to elucidate some of those, right? So they have a limited amount of money, and by a limited amount of money, they probably have the amount of money to do 13th Street. Certainly, they don't currently have the money to do anything really west of Broadway. So the parking lot change, while it's there in the plan, and they have a plan to do a beach here and a nature center and stuff like that, the money is not there for that. So the plan for the money, and this was the plan back in 2015, if you all remember, was like that this area became formation of a government improvement district or a business improvement district, in which case then a conservancy is able to collect funds based on the housing and residential and the commercial interests here, that then in turn funds the creation of the rest of this park. Not all of that's being talked about wildly openly right now. It's just kind of like they're working through the plan and trying to build, I think, enthusiasm for some of it. But my understanding from the little I know is that really they're focused on the connectivity between the new hotel and 13th Street, the farmers market, these three buildings are landmarked. That's the Atrium building where the year-round market would go, the Tea House and BMocha. So they wouldn't change. All this parking also goes away. That shows a large housing, commercial, I don't really know. This is becoming something else as well. And then the parking, I believe, is scheduled to go where?
Next to the gun shop.
Near like 14th Street, I think.
Yeah.
But that's Cajun. Cajun has to sign off on doing the parking. They collect funds for parking. They would have to agree to do the parking lot. I've asked that question. They have not agreed to do a parking lot in this plan. So it's not really clear what actually transpires in this whole plan. But of note, west of Broadway, you'll notice missing two very large buildings here. New Britain and what's the other one called?
Park Central.
Park Central are gone. That was always in the plan from 2014. They're in a floodplain. And the municipal building becomes vacated. So this is predominantly the city, and the city plans to leave in 2027, 2026, 27, into 2027 probably, is when they leave to go to Alpine Balsam. You know, from here, from the 11th Street path forward, there's a big park, which we've gotten a lot of, complaints and interest in, and that kind of stuff. The parking lot, which we don't manage, but get complaints about, and the library. And then this is Section 8 housing, which Boulder Housing Partners decided to end that Section 8 housing. My understanding is that at this point, the city has submitted a bid and it's near closing for the city to acquire this land that the Section 8 housing is on, which would then give them whatever that is, slightly over an acre of land to also sell, potentially for development of some sort or another, whether housing or, I don't really know, but also then to contribute funds to activating the park. I do need you to know too, so we'll talk about this briefly in the retreat, it's not a real plan yet, but there are parties with funds who are interested in this building. And the city, they've spoken to the city.
The north building.
The 1961, the building that we're in currently. That there are, it's been in existence for the entire time I've been here and much longer than that. There were groups that were several civic groups and then some political groups. It was if you remember in the 2015 master plan, it was converted to a large building that was a performance hall. There have been other proposals coming forward. Those proposals have never really gone away, and they've had different backers various times. The backer that they currently have actually has money. And so I think it's a serious one. I mean, we could talk about it at the retreat. I'm not gonna get in the way of such a project. We don't own this building. But I do think we have to discuss it as a group to understand what the role of this building would play and what in turn we would want to get if this building were to be sold. What is it we want to get out of that deal? Because when the city leaves, and the main thing about mine is we need some neighbors. We need some, if it's a residential neighborhood that they build where the Section 8 housing is to the senior center, great. I don't want to say like absolutely no on any of these ideas, because frankly, what we are going to need most when the city leaves at the end of 2027 is neighbors and partners and people that we can, because we don't want to be the last place standing from Broadway to 9th Street. I guarantee you, I'm sure that the city will do their best to make things work, but it will be a lot lonelier when the city's not here and we're the only institution.
What's the terms of our lease with the city currently?
We have a 20-year lease. We're in
Expires in.
We're in year 2.
So
That
18
expires.
years from now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the soonest, I mean, if they sold it between now and then, that lease would transfer presumably to the buyer,
Yes.
and the soonest the buyer could do anything would be 18 years down the road.
We have a lot of leverage.
It's non-terminable.
Right. Short of
That's
us voluntarily exiting the lease.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the West Senior Center, or what it's called, the Wellness Center?
Eighth Wilson.
Okay.
There's ever been a euphemism.
Okay. The city's plan is to.
Yeah.
Okay,
I have a meeting with Nuri and Chris this week. I would like to, that they proposed a plan in between the 2015 master plan for the civic area and this, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, to close it.
It's
So
only
they-
open a couple days a week.
Yeah, they proposed closing it and moving the wellness center to another location. And that was because of the inconvenient access and not very good parking, right? So that was already on the table. I think it's, you know, if you've been in the building, and I'm sure all of us have been in the building, it's not a great building. It's an old building that is, you know, it's not great.
It's already owned by the city though.
It is
Yeah.
owned by the city. The city owns, once the Section 8 housing goes, the city owns basically everything west of Broadway.
How many units in that Section 8 housing?
You know, it's not that many, but yeah, I think it's about 12 to 16. And I did ask the mayor, I said, so I assume that means you have places for all of you to go. And that, it was not a city decision, Boulder Housing Partners elected to close that. So if Boulder Housing Partners elected to close that shop, that means they do have places for them to go. I think when Alfalfa's closed, it very much changed the equation for those people in that section of housing. There are several, it's mostly older people. Several are heavy-duty library users. I mean, I think they will continue to use one of them writes me a letter every month. I mean, she's super sweet. She loves the library, but yeah, it is planned for Boulder Housing Partners is out, which my assumption is that means they have a place for all those people to live. Designated housing. They don't kick people out, Boulder Housing Partners. So just something for us to consider in the next 5-year plan. It'll come up on Sunday.
I think my only comment for you to take back on that one is the removal of parking spaces. I don't know what our lease says about that. I don't think we can control that.
We're not leasing parking lots?
No, but we have a joint agreement. It's subject to a joint agreement.
I don't think that's the number of spaces.
I don't remember that part of it either. I think it does say they'll maintain parking, but what that means is, I guess if they eliminated all of it, it would, materially change the terms of that.
So what do you view as the board's role in engaging with the city here? It sounds like at the staff level, you guys are already engaged, and it sounds like.
I'm gonna find out more on Sunday, I think, on.
Because we haven't formally filed obviously we don't individually file comments, but that seems ineffective. I guess is the question, does the library want to file an official position?
I mean, my assumption, and I'm just speaking probably out of turn here, I think our biggest leverage point right now is this building and the park.
Right, so
And
that
so
we worry less about it now and negotiate later.
We utilize this building and the parking lot as the negotiating point. I don't think anything's happening in the next 5 years in the parking lot. I don't believe the funding is, and when I've seen those models for conservancies and how long it takes them to break in money, it's a good 5 to 10 year window where then once a conservancy is in place, they can do remarkable things. I'm a believer, but it's a 10-year cycle, and there would have to be private development within this area for them to actually grow their revenue base. Right? It's not going to happen with just a bunch of old houses sitting along the edge of Raft Road. Even if they were to go into a district, it's not going to happen with retail on 13th Street. If you understand the economics of a conservancy, you have to agglomerate considerable amounts of land, take a development and have fee and/or tax. And that's where you make money. And I mean, I've seen in other places in Colorado where they'll put a 20-year
I guess go back to Amy's question.
tax-free thing, then that goes to the thing.
Back to Amy's question, do you recommend that we, as a board, make any statements to them, or do we feel comfortable, I guess as a board, just letting David and, we can give him a direction.
The question is do we have an actual position we want to try to influence at this stage? And I guess, it seems like the plan's baked. As much as the plan's ever baked.
Right.
They've already drawn the map, so it's not like we're influencing what gets drawn where. And it also seems like they're not far enough along to actually be making the tactical decisions yet, which is.
Well, and if Alpine Balsam is any, indication of how quickly they can move on
And it's not,
a
right?
development,
10 years. 10 years.
10 years since they bought it, right, and then.
So what about after the retreat, we consider whether there's some statement or some positioning after we.
Yeah, we technically missed the deadline
I know.
for comments.
But we could tie it to our retreat and use that as a living point.
Yeah, I guess that's my question is there any value in us starting to assert a position now, or is this better sat on until we're at a later date? And we don't have to answer that question now, but we're having the discussion, so it kind of begs the question.
I think it's around the parking lot. I mean, this building is not even, that's not really for public consumption at this point. No offer has been made, no deal is being considered, but.
But if they, I mean, again, if we wanted to trade this building, yeah, I mean, there's obviously a whole discussion there, especially with makerspace and the theater.
So something to think about. The parking lot, if anything, will be imminent. We've registered with them. I registered with them, Jen registered with them. It's not a good idea, you know? And don't social engineer it, right? So don't decide to wipe out the parking lot in hopes that you'll build a park. That would damage our business. That would definitely damage our business. There is a sizable chunk of that parking lot which is taken up by city employees who park in those two buildings, which they will vacate twice. And so there will be empty spots in the parking lot. We'll have better data at that point about what the size of the parking lot is we need. We did a study several years ago, it's been, oh gosh,
Yeah.
probably 8 years ago now.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was surprised, that was even when we still had a bus stop here. And the number of people who traveled here in cars was disproportionately large. It was shocking. It was like in the nearly 80% of the traffic that comes here traveled by cars. A much smaller percentage came by public transportation, a smaller percentage still walked or took bikes.
That was a lot more detail than I got, so thank you. No, it's good. Because it is a lot of stuff to think about. Okay.
We would love for the park to be highly programmed.
Yeah,
Well maintained.
we've had conversations with the team about that as well, and it sounds like that's their intention, is to partner with us on that, but we'll see. The other group I met with, the two folks leading the comprehensive plan update, both were pretty new to the city, very nice women. One was in planning. I can't remember where the other one was. Anyways, they're planning to revamp the entire plan and simplify it so that it's more accessible to the entire community. And they described it as being a document that's sort of been organically growing piece by piece, and so they want to do a major overhaul of it. They have a vision statement. I won't read it to you. It's in your packet. There's a nice website with tons of information on it at boulderfuture.org, and we can go there in a minute. But I just wanted to fly through some of the specific things. There's a community assembly. I think you're one of the advisors. Yeah. So, and actually they're holding community conversations in the library tonight. There's a group of 20 teens up in our Mesa room having a conversation about the comp plan. And they're earning volunteer credits or some kind of credits.
From my neighbor.
Yeah. So they're, this assembly is what? Can you describe it?
Yeah, it's most commonly communities, and it's been a much more international sort of movement, but they're usually called citizen assemblies, but Boulder chose to use community as a more inclusive term related to it, but it was a randomly selected group of residents, which if you got a yellow envelope in the mail, you might have had an opportunity then to apply, but it was still a random drawing of individuals, and it's like over 50 people. It is fascinating because they are just not the usual suspects that you'd see in, sort of planning related issues and that kind of thing, but they have had day-long Saturday sessions, primarily at East Boulder Rec Center, where they, sort of do a deep dive into what is a 15-minute neighborhood and what does that look like, what are some of the national and international models related to that, and ultimately they will be making recommendations to the 3-body review of the comp plan on 15-minute neighborhoods and suggestions on where they could be enhanced in the city. And so it's been a very thoughtful and thorough process, and all of the people involved have been sticking with it and attend these sessions, and I've just never seen such an engaged group of people. And so the idea behind this too is that an assembly could be a model for, a budget process, right? And you'd have a sort of a pot of money that would be set aside for certain neighborhood improvements or something like that, and you would convene an assembly for that kind of recommendation down the line. But this is Boulder's first test of something like this, so I think it's a very positive thing. So.
Thank you. So there's about 19 mentions of the library in the comprehensive plan that exists now. There is a policy under culture 8.18 that talks about libraries. This is what it says, just one sentence. There are other policies that they would like to get our input on, or at least my understanding is when they get to rewriting these parts that they will share their drafts with us for input. But regional collaboration policies, educational resources, and then of course how the IGA kind of fits into the comprehensive plan.
Isn't that what it said last time? Is this the same wording as the last?
This is it.
This is the old wording.
This is the old, that's what I
Yeah.
thought, okay.
There is no new wording.
There's
Okay,
not-
that's what I thought,
I
I was
mean,
like,
it's
that
like-
seems,
It's minimal, so I think if we want more, we could say that. My recollection of when this was written was basically they sent a sentence around and said, you have a day to okay this. So they would like to know from us, when we have the information, as soon as we have it, how we see library service distribution in the city. I told them that we were interested in aligning with areas of growth in the city. And so they talked a little bit about a couple of areas that might be considered for growth, and I can't remember. One was an area
Area 3.
in there, they said that's less than the other one, so east of Arapahoe. And then they'd like to know long-range plans for library locations, just kind of like what we're thinking. I told them that we were embarking on a strategic plan next year, and that once we had that drafted, we would share that with them. So
Does their timeline align with our timeline
No.
No.
They'll finish the process by October,
of this year?
yeah, with their recommendations.
So well before we even start our strategic plan.
policies are coming out next year.
I'm just talking about just the citizen assembly and the neighborhood and the school.
Right, but the
Yeah.
citizen stuff is limited to the 15-minute neighborhood question. The broader comprehensive plan does not wrap up in October, it continues into next year, right?
I think so. I think that will probably be coming out before ours is done, but that's not a disadvantage for us. We don't necessarily have to label where we're gonna have, we're more interested in growth. And honestly, I'm very interested in, and I think it will be informative for our strategic plan as well, like the 15-minute neighborhood. That has been taken for granted as a design concept for 50 years in Boulder. They're finally talking about the disadvantages, like so Novo and Gun Barrel are perfect examples of trying to contribute to the 15-minute neighborhood, Novo Library, Gun Barrel. The hospital leaving Alpine Balsam is a perfect example of not contributing to a 15-minute neighborhood. And so there are advantages and there are disadvantages, right? The school system is doing everything they can to have neighborhood libraries, but then everybody can enroll wherever they want.
neighborhood school.
Yeah, neighborhood schools, and so they're, and so some of them, they're having to close because there's not enough people living there. So, it will be good for us to have a look and see at where they see potential growth, and I think we will have to have a reasonable conversation in our strategic plan over the next 5 years, is to what degree is the costliness of a 15-minute neighborhood, creating 15-minute neighborhoods when they're not there. Does the certain regionalism make sense for us? I think those are important conversations for us to have. Like, we have two branches that are literally a mile apart. They are in worlds apart because they're separated by Broadway. But, we have to engage that conversation both from the advantages and the disadvantages. There is a cost associated with it.
They would be interested in the notes from your retreat if you're willing to share them.
Sorry, retreat, not public record.
Yeah,
No, it is.
It is. We usually do pretty abbreviated notes.
You know,
Rather than make them search for them. Give them to them.
one of the things that's come up related to 15-minute neighborhoods is it depends on your mode of transportation.
Yeah.
And, yeah, because there are many there are many 15-minute neighborhoods depending on, you can bike there typically and that kind of thing, so it's issues of access to that.
Yes. And it's a whole host of things, right? It's schools, it's healthcare, it's shopping, it's a lot of different things that factor into it.
And my goal was to see that they were thinking about the library distinct from like other city services, just because we're now a district and we weren't a district the last time the comp plan review happened, so.
You can explain this to me, because I'm, I struggle with this plan because it's such a big project and such a big undertaking, and we're not great about, as a community, making a plan and then sticking to it over 20 years or whatever. So I guess, is the goal of the comprehensive plan to manage
Land use.
land use? Okay, and then, so that would manage growth potentially and
Maybe a guiding
guiding
document
document,
for the
like-
planning board and the
okay,
city planning board, the county
okay, so
planning
if,
commission.
yeah, they were this is slated for development into commercial property or housing or
Yeah.
factories.
Area 3 is.
Yeah,
Area.
Area 3, for those of you that don't know, is the area east of where Novo is, right? So east of 28th Street. It's a large area. I think it's something like potentially 3,000 to 4,000 housing units, individual housing units. So it would put stress on Novo if that would ever happen. Probably not gonna happen in 25 years because everybody either thinks it's a prairie dog village or open space and it won't go over easily. And nobody is prepared to pay for the infrastructural cost of
right,
putting in water and electricity, right? So it's a big, East Arapahoe is another area say, it's predominantly industrial. All of the landowners there, none of them do housing. I mean, not to say that they won't do housing, but they all do industrial office space, right? They're not developers the developers who own the land are not really in a position to just turn the switch and say we're gonna do housing and suddenly be successful at it. So there are complications to all of these things. It is a long-term plan.
it would take, it takes people okay, those people vacated, now the building's empty or the space is empty.
Yeah.
Now somebody else came in and bought it. Does it fit within, now we could redevelop it potentially and we'd have to do a land use thing. Yeah, it's a long.
The airport is the other area that has been discussed multiple times, probably that you've heard of, and they're on a long-term lease with the federal government, and it's not an easy one to extricate yourself out of.
Right.
It's a lot of money changing hands.
So it sounds like you have a number of potential touch points for us. Is the question to us just whether we need touch points other than the ones that have already been used?
Well, I certainly think you could ask for them, but they didn't talk about that as a question for you all. So they're planning on sharing the draft policies with us before the end of this year, and then having an opportunity for another touch point in early 2026 before things are finalized. And they're hoping that the final public review of the draft will be ready in March. So they're moving quite quickly. So we should be hearing something, I would think, fall, winter.
Who ultimately approves the comprehensive plan?
For body review. So it's the city council, the county commissioners, county planning and the city.
Are we the only other government entity within the comprehensive plan that does not weigh in on the comprehensive plan?
And that's why I think it could be
Well,
the,
the school districts.
well, that's true too, but
The school district does not have a seat anyway.
No. But over time it could change.
But I think, in my personal view, we are probably reactive to land use decisions more than anything. I mean, unless they're we're redeveloping this for high-rise, this area, but same with schools, they're just gonna potentially put schools where kids are, that would be the ideal, I guess.
I think we follow it closely,
Yeah.
right? So there are things that could happen. I don't know, was it 10 years ago when there was the huge plan that was gonna be housing, it was determined to be a floodplain, there was a massive fight. With the city, it was east and
Hogan Paint
and
Toss?
south, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so like that would have been impactful, right, for the library and potentially for like either the Reynolds Library or something like that. But that ended in the way it ended. And that, in no opinion whatsoever, but it's, but it kind of then limits the potential for South Boulder to have any form of expansion ever. Because I don't know of any other land out there, shy of the federal labs are all closed, that could be impactful. But I don't think there's any plan for that either, right? So it is, that equation factors into what decisions we make. How much money do we put into Reynolds if we know that the community is aging and there is no growth planned for it in the next, for land use, there's no possibility.
Yeah.
What's the equation look like in a sector that will be more around meadows, which is very different? And there is developable land. What happens to Baseline Mall? I mean, there are properties that are vacant there a long time. Is the city gonna convert commercial space to potentially housing to offset burden on housing of the university? There are all kinds of questions that will be answered, and there will be minor changes to that code, land use code, of what areas are potentially zoned as. It may be a range of things that they allow for, and that changes the equation. In some cases substantially. Hogan Pancos would have been a substantial change.
Didn't get your library bathroom because you bought that. It delayed your bathroom because you bought that piece of property.
I think so.
It might just be worth us thinking a little about, as we do start to engage with these touch points, like,
Yeah.
what do we want our role here to be, right? Because I think one approach is, yes, we are strictly downstream of this.
Yeah.
They make the comprehensive plan and we use it as an input into our planning. The other version of this is that we actually try to influence the outcome of the comprehensive plan.
Well,
which we may
one
not
question
have
I,
interest in doing, but we should decide, like, what are we actually trying to do is, because otherwise we're gonna get to these documents and look at them and go, and what position are we trying to assert?
one question I wouldn't have thought of before this year, but like, if they do abandon these federal facilities, are they gonna, is there, is there a plan that they would be redeveloped into some sort of, I guess it would take, but we could plan for it and the federal government could turn it over. I don't know, that's one question that we should look at.
IBM is selling property for
Yeah, there's this,
pickleball courts.
yeah, well, no, but they're talking about, they're selling that whole property to redevelop potentially IBM into housing. And they were talking about putting 6,000 units there. Yeah.
Which would make our gun barrel library pretty small.
Oh, yeah, it would.
Yeah, so,
We put another
Because-
one a mile away.
right now it's just
Gun barrel too.
right now it's just but I know they had people, I think, buy it. It's just a matter of like, with AI and these data centers now, it's hard to say, but I don't know if they have enough power to run AI out of that data center or not,
Interesting.
Yeah. Powering data centers is a big business right now. All right, sorry. What is this is an update, I guess come back to us when they have their preliminary drafts and.
Yep.
And
Bring those back.
I don't know how you would synthesize that with respect to our planning, but maybe if someone could synthesize it a little bit for us, maybe Benita is probably, who's been closest, but like, what this means for us, because I may not, to be fair, I don't really, if I look at something as single family versus multifamily or industrial zone 3, like that doesn't like.
No, we can get some
Oh, yeah.
answers from the people
Yeah.
who put together, they'll let us know where some of the major changes are, it's like, but we pay for it. Like it's Easter Outpost, Federal Labs, South Boulder, it's an interesting part of our calculation, we're not really talking about Reynolds very much. It's landlocked in some ways, a lot of people live in South Boulder, work at Federal Labs, like that is a big question for all of us, right, in terms of the future of the facility. That is a different equation, I think we have to look at all of them.
Yeah, I mean, like CU though was 30,000 students when I moved here, and now it's 37,000 students.
Yeah.
So. What's its plan? That's another question. Yeah, okay.
Here you go.
We're gonna move on unless anybody else has any questions. Okay.
So I'll cover
Password, or
Amy's.
accessibility, sorry.
Yeah, there's the accessibility report that you have in your packet. I know this is mostly all about web accessibility, meeting the standards set at the state for all compliant. We are currently compliant, we're testing on our webpage. We're working through to make all of the things compliant. So that was important that you guys just see it, you know we're doing the work. You know, in some cases, we've done a couple of audits, the last audit, which I think is included in your report. This shows vast improvements. Part of that is just taking things down that were not accessible. You know, for the web access, it's important to remember, like 80% of our traffic who lands on the web goes somewhere else in under a minute. And they're going to outside vendors, most of all. And all of our outside vendors are compliant. The catalog is a big one, as is the Carnegie Archive. And those things are already compliant. So the web catalogs, those things are fine. It's really the thing that we've had most trouble with was board minutes, like all the PDFs that we have. And the PDFs are not easily accessible. And I know these two have been, she has been fixing it rapidly. And we'll probably outsource some of the older stuff, just as a cost factor. It's just time and money, so we'll outsource making some of those older PDFs compliant and accessible for people without permission. Any questions on that?
When we say the district received 38 inquiries via web accessibility and email address which are not related to web accessibility, does that mean all emails to the accessibility email address were not related to, like, have we ever gotten a legitimate email to that address about an accessibility issue?
I don't believe we have, I don't believe we've ever gotten a request to say, I need to have this document. Yeah. We have a statement online that says that if you do email us, we will make the document accessible. I don't believe we've had some requests so far.
What, it's possible this is in here and I just haven't found it, but what is it that we have to be compliant with? Is it state law, federal law?
It's state.
Both, just state. Okay.
State of Colorado passed a law, and I think a year, 2 years ago, they gave a deadline, we still have some time.
Okay.
But we are, you know, they initially had the set deadline for July of this year. I think probably 90% of the world is not fully compliant, we are farther along in most places. Many libraries have become compliant because we just in turn put it all on the vendors, most of our vendors are 80% of the web traffic, and so they are either have to be compliant to lose the contract. So that's all.
I would also assert that even absent the state law, this was still an endeavor we would like to pursue.
Oh, right, I didn't see in here like what this, like when you talk about being like 99% compliant, like of what? Like I wasn't sure what it was against.
It's so for people who are visually impaired, so the document is.
No, I understand that. What I didn't understand is like what we were, because if we're talking about compliance, I didn't know what we were compliant.
And these scores are
I
not
wasn't sure what the baseline
like
was.
99% of the regulation. These scores are of all the pages on the website.
Yeah, no, like I said, my question was more about like, what are we trying to align with? What are the regulations that we're trying to align with?
Yeah, I could bring that back to you. Do you know what I'm
There's a
talking
whole agency that was created in mental law that governs this. When you read the regulations, I'm sure Amy knows what it says, but I can't make any details of it.
I know there's also like federal guidelines on this, so.
They have some kind of policy about this that was considered and we came up with a plan.
Yeah.
So this memo is part of that, reporting on that work that's been done, and so you'll receive this annually.
Yeah, I think my thought is that this was compliance with our policy. But I'm guessing this, when you say the score, it's like, okay, it was 96% were, you know, someone who's visually impaired could access it. Now almost everything is, except for a few documents.
Yeah, I mean, with the policy they approved, is we put a statement out with our intention of doing it. And that if anybody had a document that they needed in the meantime to email this address for thing. Celia's not the only person working on it. Celia's working on a lot of the stuff that's non-compliant. Lisa Holmberg, who's our, I don't remember systems, whatever her title is, right? So she's in IT department under Amy Sheldon. She spent a lot of time going back and forth to conferences. They went to several workshops, and she worked through our vendor list, right? So the vendor list to get all of those things to make sure that they understood the state law was, because not all of our vendors are in the state law. So a lot of people put a lot of work into this over the last 2 years. I think we're doing great.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna just go back to the, are we talking about more comprehensive plan on Sunday or more?
I don't think so.
But we are talking about planning and land use.
Yeah.
My only going back to that, sorry, I'm going back, is that if there is areas where, let's say, that they would reserve areas for libraries in land use. And I mean, whether that's like, if they're gonna put, if they plan to put, 6,000, 10,000 new units in East Boulder, that there's some area that's zoned public use or is the land, that could be potential, that would be my comments. I don't know how they do that in the planning process, but.
They do large swaths of, in the design of the 15-minute neighborhood was got.
Yeah.
Right.
That area is not, that area could have been a McDonald's, it could have been a used car dealership, or it could have been a library. So the zone was broadly defined, and that's what you'll find in, they're not gonna, I don't think, they're gonna build 6,000 units of housing without consideration for the infrastructure. That will support it.
Right.
And so then, like, if you look at the plan for Glenview, like that entire corridor that we're on, stretching on the other side of Lookout is Main Street. And it is, there's a corridor like with King Soopers, us, all the way down the street and all the way down the other side, which is zoned as a kind of a multi-use area, which would allow for
Libraries, okay.
library or public services that are allowed,
Got
or McDonald's.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm.
just as, no, I was just thinking about that, just as a resource at the retreat, if you could bring a hard copy, do you even know, do you have one of the comp plan, of the current comp plan?
We probably can print some, I
I don't need to print, I just thought,
Just bring a link to it, we can pull it up if we need to.
yeah, or I thought you might have a hard copy.
Yeah.
But,
Oh, hard copy of the whole plan? I do.
of last year,
Yeah.
just to have that, just,
Yeah, I can bring mine.
and so you could flip through it and,
Yeah,
be curious
I can
about-
bring my copy.
Yeah. Okay,
We are planning to bring some maps, and they're not done yet. And I hope they would be done before the thing, when we start talking about just the overall strategy, which will, the comp plan factors into that, to some extent. It's more a map of service areas of the library.
Sorry to reverse course on.
It's fine, it's a big deal.
Okay, next, I think this is our, second to last item, is on the password policy.
Yeah, so the policy, did everybody have a chance to read the password policy? They basically rejected all of Andy's good ideas. And so we're asking for approval of the password policy as was written in attachment A. It's the same one that you reviewed last time. I think all the questions are reasonable, and I even pushed back, Andy, you'll be happy, I was like, even the 90-day thing, like, it just seems ludicrous to me, but yeah, even the 90-day thing.
This is based on advice from our IT member.
And I don't know where they get their direction.
They're talking about it in terms, not just in terms of IT security, but it's the compliance around using credit cards, right? So when you use your library card and you pay a fine, which we don't have anymore, but if you're paying for a lot, that's the compliance in which they're trying to get, and that's what they're hoping to do. I think the main impact of this is, for Amy's consideration, is that there are a lot of staff members who are sharing passwords for public computing. That's a terrible idea. We've told them not to do it for 5 years at least. But Amy's concerned, she thinks this is a thing that will help reinstill the discipline among public service staff to not walk away from your computer without locking it down, not to share computers, because there is, you can get into a whole different network. You sit down at the staff person's PC that you can get into in your public PCs.
I know the other thing we mentioned too is trying to drop some of the details out of policy that we have to approve, so that you're not having to come back to us every time you want to change something kind of this deep in the weeds, and if there's any discussion of that.
I don't know that we did discuss that.
guess what it would be like the policy says there's a username and password standard, and then you put all of the detail in the standard, and you don't have to talk to us about it
Yeah.
anymore. Again, I mean, we can live with it for now, but it does seem like this is probably a level of detail below which you want to bring every change to us, especially since I would hope to change in the not too distant future.
Amy was on vacation, I don't know how to caught that one. She called in. Okay,
We will look at, we will look at shutting lines.
It would just be like, again, if Amy's in a position to fix this a year from now, it'd be nice if she could do it without having to come back to us as well, right? I worry a lot about etching.
Yeah.
Some stuff too deep into the stem.
Well, the cycle for the policies is every policy
Is it annual?
once every 3 years.
Yeah.
That was.
If this still says this 3 years from now, it's gonna be a very sad day for me.
I don't know that Amy was part of the discussion we had when we were setting about policies, that we separate policy from procedure. I mentioned that to her, I also helped her edit this, but I didn't, myself separate policy from procedure because this is not my realm. And I don't know exactly what needs to be in here versus what is something, a detail that we can change without getting approved.
Our IT vendor contracts up next year, right?
Can I just check, Sylvia, can you hear us pretty well?
Yes, I can, but there's also like some like racket in the background. But I can hear you. Everyone's fine.
Okay, I just wanted to check, because I was just watching your face sometimes when you're speaking.
yeah, I was like,
I
I
can
was
hear.
wondering too, because I was like, well, our microphones aren't here, but then.
Yeah.
No, all of you, I can hear everyone really well.
Okay, thanks.
There is some loud racket coming from the rooms next door, which you might also be catching.
Okay, yeah, I just periodically a little noise is happening.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
any more discussion on the password policy? If discussion is ended, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the password policy. Can I get a second to my motion to approve the password policy?
Anybody?
I'll second.
Yeah. Sylvia seconded.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
I,
All opposed? Okay, one opposed. So, wait, 1, 2, 3, it passes.
I was gonna say, you should tell me if it's not gonna pass, but.
So, well, I mean, just send that back to Amy, just like, think about it next time.
So-
Yeah, I mean, we passed it, we can talk about it in the future, I don't wanna hold Amy up, and realistically, if you find a way to avoid having to talk to us about the specific bullets in your password policy, that's probably gonna be something.
Yeah,
Are
this
you
feels like
feeling
it
that
belongs
this is
in
out of date
procedures.
practice, like not following practice?
It's bad, this
Is there sort of like a group
We
that
can
has-
have a whole discussion about
Okay.
this such a fact, but yes, this is not on Amy, this is on our IT vendor giving us a very specific selection of guidance.
That's what I thought, because the policy that they wrote was.
Right.
This is
No,
much.
and I appreciate Amy taking the time to take a look at this, and I appreciate you guys reviewing it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We have that, but, okay.
So we
So
also have-
director update or charitable trust?
We also have a policy that's been
Yeah.
put forward by Kim, I would like.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I would
We
like.
moved that up, okay.
Yeah, I would like to consider that. The procedure is not necessary for you guys to either read or discuss or vote on. We already have a procedure internally within the library, that documented training with all the staff. Ours is slightly more specific, more direct. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, we hadn't planned to bring it here.
So what is this?
So the
Sorry.
policy,
Is
the
this- is
policy
this
is Kim, so the policy is Kim, and he'll walk you through the change in the law. And then the recommended policy, which I totally agree with, and I think will give us a great understanding for procedure that we passed 4 months ago, 6
Okay.
months ago. That's great, now we have backing for it, and that'll be awesome.
Okay, go ahead, Ken.
So you have a new statute that was passed in May, end of
Right.
May. And it specifically applies to libraries. And it lays out a process for allowing law enforcement, state, federal, and ICE to access areas of library information, mostly to keep them from accessing it, and defines the kind of information they have to provide before they're allowed to access the library and the information. I think most of our library policies were very similar to this beforehand. But I think the benefit of this now is you now have a law you can point to. If an ICE agent comes in and say, hey, it's not up to me, there's a law. So it basically requires court orders, subpoenas, and warrants from a federal court if it's an ICE agent, from a state court if it's a state law enforcement. It also closes off the areas of the library that are not publicly accessible without warrant. And then probably the most important thing is it provides that the staff has to notify a designated person, and here I just put David or his designee, and get written authorization to release information or to allow access. And that's pretty much it. It's a lot of words, but that's what it is.
Have we had any issues?
But the issue is primarily staff concern. Like, what do we do? And this has started. So a lot of the documents that are here, we stopped collecting a lot of the information, which the law now prohibits us from collecting. I believe in 2016, we destroyed all the records that had information about people's citizenship status, which were part of the intake process of Boulder agency, as well as their country of origin. We got rid of all that stuff. We don't collect it anymore. So a lot of this stuff got done in 2016, 2017. The changes we made earlier this year in terms of the procedure mirrors this. So we were requesting that we document, there's a step by which we document every interrogating officer. We asked to see their identity. And so that's all laid out in the procedure that we have already written up. And it mirrors the law. This law went into effect, like, we were just discussing it, I think, everybody was discussing the same thing at the same time. So I think we're well covered in the procedure. The policy will give us, like, a lot of times with policies, it gives us something all of us can bring back to it. We'll update the procedure to include the policy as approved.
Are there ever situations, I know this comes out of national security land, but probably less so in these contexts, where a law enforcement agency would show up with a warrant that prevents the library staff from disclosing to their superiors they've been served with?
Not that I've seen. That would be very unusual.
So there's not like generally gag orders or stuff like that, these sorts of things?
Haven't seen them yet.
That was part of the Patriot Act, right? So that was I mean, that probably a credit on the Patriot Act. And there were libraries at that time.
Got national security levels?
Yeah. It's 2011, 12. That hasn't happened in Colorado libraries for quite some time.
The one other thing, just because I assume we're not the only ones that wonder how often this occurs, and I think we've maybe mentioned this before, have we considered doing any kind of a annual transparency page on our website that just says this is how many times we have gotten a request from law enforcement for this sort of information?
Yeah, and we have considered it because you brought it up 8 months ago, that I asked Amy at the time.
It might
We
just be
had
all
virtual
zeros, but that's still a useful information to publish.
We have had 2 subpoenas for police information, right? I think in the last few years, both with regards to criminal incidents which occurred outside the library, but were clearly visible on our outdoor cameras. And so we insist that they get a subpoena. We insist now that they get a subpoena of anything they intend to use in the court of law. If it were a crime, the way we act now is if it was a crime committed against a library staff member, we would review the footage with PD to try to see if there was a crime committed, if they could do something. But even then, if they want to use it as prosecutorial evidence in a court of law, we make them go back. They've seen the tape. All they have to do is go back and say to the judge, we have the tape, include it to the picture, and that's it. And then we would give it. We don't want to inhibit being able to prosecute crimes that happen in the library. Persons primarily, but property. We've had damaged property, we've not been able to find anything with any of the footage we have, or it's after hours. So it's ever helpful in that case.
I mean, if we're recording stats on this already, it might be interesting to think about publishing those, if it's extra work to keep stats, it's not working out.
They're recorded in your head.
Well, and Amy, it's like, you get requests, these cease and desist requests quite frequently because of how much bandwidth we have. So from the fire sharing, but we cannot ever determine if they're using a public PC, we have no idea who did it. And so we can't really do anything. We record them all. And so we get those kind of notices, like somebody's using phosphorus. We have even no idea what they're using it for. I have no idea. Like And so for those, it's kind of like, I store them all in an archive. I don't know how many we have. I've had 2 in the last month, probably. Some company that, you know, T-Mobile or something saying. It's just because we have so much juice and we don't notice it.
Same thing about, yeah, I guess it's mainly useful if like all of a sudden there's a giant uptick in requests from the federal government. We have a clear way of alerting the public to that fact.
Yeah, one of the places we've found in passing this around is where people are collecting information in the libraries is if you have like an on-staff therapist that's referring people out, they collect a lot of information that is just laying there, nobody thinks about it.
So we would refer people to, no, what's it called? What's the referral service that we have?
Do you have like any concern?
EAP service.
Yeah, that's not internal though.
Referral. That may be something we need to bring up.
So,
What, that's public record?
so, one question I have with this is if there's a crime suspected to have occurred in the library and it's not against the staff and like PD comes and says, can I look at the tape, are you gonna require them? Or like, it doesn't seem like, it seems like under this, you have to require them to get a subpoena.
We're frequently, I have a good relationship with PD. If they'll ask me, I'll say we got nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
I-
but if they wanna review the tape, you say, go get a subpoena, you have, like, this policy is gonna require you to get a subpoena.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
okay.
case now, like,
Yeah,
we believe there was a car theft, and we believe they drove by the library, we take care of it, outdoor cameras, we picked it up. No, it did not. If it did, we'll say, give us a subpoena.
you can come look at it, or we'll give it to you, okay. I just wanted to make sure we're not, but even if it's a crime against the staff member, technically this would require you to.
This mainly revolves around patron records, right? This mainly revolves around patron records.
Yeah, but the video is a patron record.
Well, no.
Identifies a person as.
I don't agree with it, it's use, right? So a video is,
A
the
user.
video has to be recording use, and so this is a reasonable question, right? If a person's sole purpose of coming into the library is, let's say it's a domestic dispute, and they walk into the library, go directly to another person and hit them in the back of the head, is that a library use? Was there any, because way we interpret it now is that anybody entering in the library for any purpose is a library use. But I think the law is questionable in that regard. There are people who come into the library with no intent whatsoever of using the library in any discernible purposes. They're here to find something, right? A person, and we had this request, like it's in the case of this one, I checked with you, it was a domestic dispute. The hitch, which seems like an incident, right? It's like, it seems like a technicality. I needed them to get approval of all of the other people depicted in the video, to get them to be permitted so that evidence could be used in court. Unless those other people were willing to show themselves walking into the camera, because they had maybe legitimate uses, and so they went away, right? Like that went away. But again, the question was a question of domestic violence, person had a restraining order. They suspected that the person was visiting the library when they were here on purpose to see them, and we denied them access to the tape. I feel uncomfortable about that. And it is the interpretation of our policy that because other people were walking in the door at the same time, she had to go and find those people. She would have had to go and get those people and get them to say, I waive my right to
Right. Okay.
disclosing my library.
I think my question, let me rephrase it, was just that this policy isn't gonna inhibit your current practices with regard to safety within the library space. Oh, sorry, that was a lawyerly question. Okay, so, do we need to act on this then?
The policy, I gave there is a recommendation.
It's supposed to be in place by September 1st, so, you could put it in place and then bring it
Okay.
around in the cycle or.
Does anyone have any edits or drafts they would be?
There's a straight period, but other than that.
I mean, I think this builds on what we've already approved with respect to patron records, and we had a policy on that several months ago.
So I would move approval of this policy
Thank you.
required by Senate Bill 25-176.
And we're just approving the policy on pages 1 and 2, the procedures on 3 and 4 are not formal policy, that's something.
It's
that's
page-
up to you guys.
That's just a recommendation, we have a procedure if you want to see on that. It basically.
30 and 31 of the packet.
Yeah, yours is.
Do you second that motion?
Yeah, I can second.
Doug, we got it.
Okay, okay, all in favor of approving this policy, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, or raise your hand. Okay, any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. All right, thank you. Thanks, Kim, for getting us in compliance by the deadline.
Real quick, Kim, you have this is in the procedure side, so non-binding, but you have this know your rights card.
Yeah,
We have those already.
we already have, we've had them so for, you know.
That answers the question?
Okay,
Just a couple of things on the director's report, some changes of dates for opening and closures, which you guys do have to approve with,
wait,
oh, sorry.
approval of the Warner Charitable Trust.
Oh, is that for before that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. So for those of you who don't know, the Warner Charitable Trust is a small endowment that pays out to the library every year. It's a check of $6,217. You have to approve it for letter goes to the family that still are alive, I think, in Boulder County or no? The Warner Charitable Trust in Indiana. You've spoken with them.
I've spoken with him, I thought it was that, I can't, I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Yeah. So in any case, this was something that was left to the request of the library. Back in the 80s, we did investigate switching over from the library to the library foundation. I can't remember what all the complications were, but there were some complications.
It would cost money for some reason. Can't remember why it was.
It's not enough.
I think they would have to
money
amend their-
fully- It's a shame that y'all have to deal with this, it should go through the foundation, but complications on their end, we're just leaving it alone.
I think the only question I had is on the Warner Charitable Trust beneficiary receipt agreement. It both is addressed to the Colorado Library Commission, which doesn't exist, and it also says we have to attest that we're 501c3 or 509A1, 2, or 3. Are we any of those things?
I don't know. I did file paperwork
So
when
like, can we
Johnny
even
was
sign
president,
this receipt?
the district is a beneficiary. I think they just take the letter and dust it off and print it out and send it to us every year.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with accepting the money, I'm just wondering if we can't technically sign this receipt because it's wrong.
I do think that we are, like, if you donate to us, it's a tax deductible contribution.
You donate to the foundation.
No, but to the library,
To-
to the library as well, or to the government as well.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
as long as we can sign the receipt, no other forms.
I don't remember even seeing this last year. This is just this,
I know, I don't remember this part either.
yeah.
Do we need a motion to authorize me to accept this?
Accept.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept this Warner Charitable Trust of $6,217.
I second that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor of taking the Warner Trust money, say aye.
Aye.
And then we'll ask.
Any opposed, please?
And it sounds like you guys are trying to figure out.
We'll see if Kim can,
Yeah.
can accept.
If we could just amend the motion to add at the end of the first paragraph, what did they say?
Tax exempt public entity.
Okay,
Or a tax exempt public entity. Because technically we aren't any of the things listed here.
Boulder, Colorado Library District, we'll say at the top, and then, or tax exempted.
It's the board that's actually the beneficiary, not the district. I changed that when Johnny was here. She signed all of his forms to do it. They just didn't update this agreement.
All right, just send this to me via, okay, no one was opposed, we were in the middle of a vote, so the motion carries.
Warner, for those of you who don't know, was a huge library advocate in the 80s, public figure, wrote a ton in the Daily Camera. He was an advocate for the library here in 1992. He was advocate for long-term dedicated funding for the library. I think he'd be happy with where we are right now, but he's less well-known than Doris Haas, but equally prominent in that time frame in the 80s, where there's multiple articles where he wrote to the Daily Camera about how, carve out money for the library. And so then he put his money where his mouth was when he passed away, and so the charter trust gave money to the library in perpetuity. Pretty cool story.
And do we have does this like map one-to-one to some expenditure in the budget? Or no? Okay.
Yes,
It's
it
in
goes
the
to
budget.
It goes to the collection
Yeah,
and it's divided equally between children and adults.
it's in the budget for sure, a line item in there of revenue.
Well, I knew it was a revenue line item. I didn't know if we carried that money through to a specific expenditure, but it sounds like we did.
Books. I didn't know that, but now I do. So somebody can, Celia, you can amend this. You can scratch
Before you sign it.
before I sign it, you can just email it to me and I'll sign it.
I don't have the original, but
Oh, someone can.
I can do it, but I don't know that they're gonna register.
The bank, because it's their document?
Yeah.
Oh,
Just like I filled out their forms to change beneficiary, and they obviously didn't answer that. I mean, that,
should he sign, if you wanna sign this one, since
Oh,
it's
yeah,
their
sure.
original.
sure. Okay, alright, I'll just do this later. Okay, directors, let's see. Directors updates and then.
Quick update on just some hour changes around the Tri-County Dream Festival and the foundation. So just hour changes. And then there's the volunteer summer discovery impact report, which I will be. We did just get the report for today on the summer discovery. Had a 30% increase in completion rate, like a 20% to 5% increase in testing, so that's all pretty good. But the volunteer report, I hope you'll take a look at it. I mean, you guys are all volunteers. They make a huge difference in the library. And I know your kids volunteered this summer. I know a bunch of other people's kids volunteered this summer. It's a great opportunity for the kids, as you can read about in the report. They have a lot of really nice quotes, but like a lot of these volunteer programs are just a huge gateway for people to become library advocates. JLF, I think that is, we've kind of gone back and forth. JLF is going to be scaled back this year. JLF's biggest success over the last 10 years. I mean, it's a great festival for us to have. It highlights a different productivity. But if I had to point to one thing that I thought is worth the investment is the gateway for volunteers to become involved. I can't tell you how many volunteers we have that are long-term volunteers that say, there are people on the foundation board. They got started on the library based on coming to the JLF to volunteer for this event, and then they stay with us. Almost all of the people in the book sale room all came to us through JLF. It's an untold, remarkable story about some of these programs that really attract, which is a critical part of our ability to provide services to the public, right? And all the different things that we do, not just your work. Your work is the biggest one, but it's all down the line. And it used to be, before we became a district, I estimated that it was almost 14% of our workforce was volunteers, the services that we provided, and that they accounted for something like 10 FTE, which is a remarkable achievement. I think the number hasn't grown substantially from where we were before to now, but we are positioning ourselves in the last year, having hired a new volunteer person to build out that department to substantially grow that program to meet, that whatever, 8, 10, 12, 14% of the workforce, because it's a great opportunity, I think, for the public. And I think we offer exciting, fun opportunities to participate in your community, right? So.
Is the summer discovery, is it funded by the foundation still or no?
It's a library expense.
Library expense, okay,
We did pass through some support from a donor that really likes it, so about $5,000 came from the foundation.
and you said that was up, the participation was up, but
Yeah,
quite a
the
bit.
participation was up about 17, we dropped during the pandemic, so I don't think we're back at 2019 numbers yet, but it's shown, it stayed remarkably steady throughout the pandemic, honestly, and didn't drop off as precipitously as other things. But I have to go back and look, I just got the email today, so I think the total participants was up 17%, and the completion rate, which is something that we look internally, I don't know if anybody else really cares about, was up 30%, which is great. That means more people actually not only signed up and got the free book, but they went through and got the completion, read all the time that they
Okay,
agreed
yeah,
to, and then got their free.
I thought the
extra
beat factor was
programs.
not as working as well this year as it did last year, but that was my own thing. But I guess yeah, I mean, I wonder if, and we can talk about it, but like promoting it a little more, you know, it mostly spreads by word of mouth and people sitting in the library. And just maybe a little bit of advertisement that it's going on and what you can get. And I don't know if they go into the schools, like our outreach teams.
We do go into
have been in the
schools.
schools and sign people up then and.
Yeah, so it's a big push at the schools at the end of the year. The library, it's not just the outreach team, most all the libraries, the branches and the main library go out to the schools. I can't remember how many schools we had. There's something like 18 or so of the elementary schools that we had.
Yeah, cool.
Some middle schools. We used to do, Boulder Valley School District has a summer program, which some kids are required to attend. There's like 700 or 800 kids that are required to attend that. We used to go there. I don't know that we've done that in the last couple of years. Maybe let's get back. So we got a summer program as well.
The only other thing is, you know, as a team, having two teams that participated in it, I would say, as volunteers, engage those teams and get them to work more. Like, you'll be in this boat in a couple of years, but like, I think I talked to the volunteer coordinators, was like, you know, have them do some like leadership type experiences. I think that would be great for their college resumes and like, I mean, this is my own personal feedback, so you could take it or leave it and completely ignore it. But like, you know, really push the teams to like, I think, instead of just sitting at the table, which is fine, but like have them do some leadership type. I think it'd be cool to see, and we're talking about engaging teens and like cool things. I think it would be cool to see them like get some, you know, experience, leadership type experience, developing programs and for other kids in the program, that kind of stuff. I don't know if that makes sense, but engaging them a little bit more to, because if like they're my teens and they're not old enough to work, but they're too young to be in camps, and they have productive capacity that gets spent, you know, looking at their phones. So that's my own, at least my children. So.
I think that's good. Do we have a comparison to last year?
On the volunteers?
Oh, just in report in general, like what are your impressions of our numbers?
On the volunteer numbers, I think they're as good as last year.
They are as good?
I'll have to ask Sophia.
Okay.
The volunteer program they're doing great.
Yeah. But in terms of, then maybe back to your point, like the reading, like the goals of the program, when will we see that kind of,
You'll get that report this month.
okay,
Cassie this was her first year, so Cassie's the new head of youth services. It was her first year with Summer of Discovery, it's her first year leading the program. I don't even know that I've told her yet that I expect her to do a board report, but she did send me the end of year report. It's just not in a presentation that we would bring to the board, it's just strictly straightforward numbers, but we will have it put together something, it'll be a great opportunity. And it's a big investment for us, like we probably, I don't know, it's a 12-month planning cycle, and there's at least 6 or so staff members that are involved in that, maybe more. And we spend in cash money $60,000 on that program. So it's the biggest program that we do. So
It's cool.
yeah,
I would say most of the programs most of the like events are like all, like you can't volunteer for those, like they fill up really quick. Most of the volunteer slots are like completely full. Like, so, but yeah, like.
so back to JLF and their downsizing, what does that look like? Is that fewer hours or?
they're not gonna be on the second floor. They should. So they'll be in the Canyon Theater, in the, we call it the Sanitas, I can't remember what they call it. Steps room, thank you, and then Brook and Boulder Creek, which they call Brook. So it'll be Boulder Creek, library staff spend a lot of time actually programming in that space. That'll be a large, the contingent, one whole day of Indigenous American speakers and topics and people flying in from all over the country, as well as some tribal elder, I think, coming from Oklahoma, I believe that. And so that'll be interesting to see if there's participation in that. You know, the Jaipur folks will be managing predominantly the theater and steps. And I can't remember all of the different events that will be happening. I encourage you to come, it's a great event.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry that the second floor won't be happening
So you don't have
this
to
year.
pay for chairs.
What's that?
Rental
We don't have to pay
chairs.
for chairs. We did put money into Jaipur this year in hopes, I mean, I didn't put stipulations on it, I was hoping that that would mean that they would do the second floor. But it wasn't conditional upon them doing the second floor, and then they opted not to do the second floor, which I was like, darn. So that, we'll see what happens this year. The festival itself, like I said, it's been great in a lot of different ways. There's a
How's their
large,
new director doing?
there's, all of the local chapter has disbanded, right? So there is no JLF Boulder anymore.
Oh,
They became subsumed under a national organization. There is no local fundraiser, there's no local leadership, there's none of that anymore. I do believe that the Jaipur folks from the big festival and the Teamwork Arts really kind of hoped that we would step in that vacuum, and I said, that's not happening. We're not gonna be the local sponsor. It's a conflict in some ways, we allow for them to come here, it's, we couldn't pull this festival off for the amount of money that it cost to do it. I don't think we would opt to do that, just given what, it would be the highest cost per participant program that we did. And I'm not sure I'm ready to do that for JLF. We have talked internally about whether or not another literature festival might work. We're seeing one in Boulder was a great event. Foundation's pulling off pretty major events with a single well-known author. Jaipur doesn't bring in like well-known, sometimes they had Amy Tan.
Yeah.
They had, a lot of really big name authors, but the numbers have never been, I think the highest they ever had was around 3,500 to 4,000 total for the weekend.
Yeah.
And so that's not, I think their hopes were that it would be 12 or 20 or 75. Obviously, we would be able to accommodate it for 75 or even 20. We could probably accommodate 12 over a weekend, but no, we'll see what happens after the end of this year. We did sit down with them and go through the finances. It's not, it's a losing proposition to them. They like Boulder.
Yeah.
How much did the library put in?
We put in $30,000. The whole festival is about $350 to pull off. In past years, it was about $450. But I think this year their budget's probably around $300, $350.
Well, I noticed last year they did get SCFD funding. And
But that's also gonna drive, they got it this year as well, but
Did they?
will they get it next year? I don't
well, not if they're,
I don't know,
Downsizing.
and they also got NEA grants, will that be even a thing in 2026, I don't really know. So their long-term sustainability is, I think they're reasonable, it's been great,
yeah,
we've had them here for 11 years, 10, the first 5 were awesome, the last 5 have been kind of shaky, and it's kind of a losing proposition, I think, on their end. Almost all the way.
wow.
And by losing proposition, meaning they lose probably in the 6 figures every year. Money like
Wow.
I had hopes of growing that. You interpret it however you want. My sense is that they're kind of starting over. Maybe that's what they're doing, or maybe they're just wrapping it all up and finding a graceful way to exit. I don't really know.
Okay, all right. Any other things in the director's report? No?
No, gun barrels had some lags, they can't, lie, we've had, some delays on shipment times. We had some issues with the HVAC. I probably will be back to you in the next 2 or 3 years with the bigger problems on the HVAC we got working. But the HVAC system's from 1984, right? We basically, we have another 50-year-old building, and we're trying to maintain it and make it nice library, so like, just so we know, like, everything's still kind of on target, we're pushing back the grand opening probably till the end of October rather than the beginning of October. I think everybody's excited about tying it down, weed and doing that kind of stuff. We still may open the doors in September, right? It's possible. But I know some large wall treatments aren't due for delivery until October 1st. So if we open in September, it's not gonna be done, but it will be functional. It's really the HVAC and the bathrooms, no working with bathrooms. So,
So since we're not retreating there, could we arrange for a tour of,
the best time is a Friday, I'm more than
yeah,
happy.
I know you've mentioned that, but I was holding off thinking we were gonna have a board retreat there, but maybe I need
Yeah,
to
so
arrange for a
I
Friday.
typically go out
But if
every
other people
Friday,
wanted
and
to
if you'd like
join-
to come along and you're interested.
Two at a time.
Yeah, well, we're just, but yeah, go, just,
Yes,
yeah,
we'd
go
love
out,
to.
I was there
At what
about a month
time?
ago.
I'm usually there on Friday afternoons, because the work and mostly, if we show up at 10, I'm willing to be flexible. You tell me when you wanna go on Friday. I mean, I have a key, I can let you in anytime, but it's, if we get there around 3, which is typically when I get there,
Okay,
2 or 3 o'clock, and then you can take a look around it.
okay.
It
I'll
still
plan
looks a
on
little bit
Friday
like a
at 3.
construction site. I gave a tour to a donor last week.
Yeah, I just want to see it. So if somebody else wants to join Friday at 3,
Do you want to do it this Friday at 3?
yeah, since
Okay,
we're not gonna be there on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I have it in my.
yeah, should go take a look, let us know how it looks. People are
You wanna plan on that?
I'm out of town this Friday.
Okay.
patiently waiting.
What?
2 o'clock.
Yes,
Okay, that's all for the director's report. The foundation,
wait, before we leave that, just then the retreat is going to be here in this building, but not in this room?
In this room.
Can we like
does
be
not like this
upstairs or
room.
something? It just is so, just to change a venue, I think, for
Well, we can-
the
we-
whole
we
day
can-
conversation.
we won't do a horseshoe, we can do,
But why not upstairs? I mean, why not like in the,
well, we have to reserve a room, I think, that's the only problem.
is it not
I'm just
available?
not sure of the connectivity up there. 'Cause we have-
Like next to your office, that,
Oh, we're at the
Oh,
Table.
no, we don't have a way to get the people
we
in
couldn't
up there
remote people in.
easily.
I think at least one person might be remoting in for the retreat.
Essentially.
oh, okay. Okay, and then the council dinner is gonna be in here too?
Yeah,
Well, we were just talking about
We
that,
could paint it a different color.
we were just talking about that, we might move it because of the,
Please consider
yeah,
moving
yeah.
it. I
And then
just-
we could come down here for the meeting,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
Where would we move it
Yeah.
to?
I don't know, I thought we were talking about that earlier,
Oh, no,
like the
I thought
Boulder,
it was in here.
Boulder Creek room, or, I don't know,
Only if it's available.
okay.
I mean, that'd be.
check. What time
we
is
have no pull.
And then, yeah, it could actually be anywhere because it's not gonna be recorded, so.
We could push
It's
the
not
tables together in the cafe. I'd gladly do that.
Kind of fun,
Yeah,
People will be milling around.
that's fine, it's an
yeah.
open
What do
meeting.
you want to talk about? We're not doing a slide presentation to the board. What do we, went for the city council, what do we do?
I think we just go through what we accomplished, like, we're opening Gun Barrel and.
Let's try to have
You
a-
really have
An engaging conversation as opposed
Yeah.
to like last year of like,
I don't know if we'll have any game, I mean, that was.
they didn't even want
This
to do
is
this.
city council you're talking about.
Yes, it is.
We'll talk about it, but I think
Yeah,
we'll just kind of hit the highlights from the annual plan.
Yeah, we can look at Boulder. You want to look
maybe
at
ask them
Boulder.
about what books
I'll see
they
about
read
the
during
Boulder
the
Creek's
summer or
available. I don't
something.
know that it
Yeah.
is, and so, but
The annual, report, I'm sorry. It's the annual plan.
and then we won't have people remote in for dinner.
Probably not.
You're either there to eat dinner or you're
Yeah.
not there to eat dinner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, I was gonna get to that, trustee matters, but,
Okay,
okay, foundation.
Sure, a few things. So, I think I had said previously that in June, we had the annual International Public Library Fundraising Conference that we attended. Myself, Kitty, our board president, and Julie, who's now on our staff, is our director of annual giving, before she even began, came out there. And Kitty and I gave a presentation about like starting the second life cycle of a foundation. And it just found out last week, it was a fan favorite.
Oh.
So it got ranked as one of the top 5 presentations of the 3-day event. And that means we'll have an encore online presentation for the international fundraisers of libraries who, whether they were able to come to the conference or not, we'll get to take that in. That's an honor kind of among peers, and they do a good job with these encores. Like I always try to make sure I catch them because you can't beat it everything during these concurrent sessions. So that's neat, and it's a testament to what this library and foundation have been up to.
Is that something that you can share with
Oh,
us?
yeah,
so we can
absolutely,
see what it
yeah.
was,
When we
the
get,
content?
when we get firmed up, I think we're likely in a November kind of a date. And thanks for your interest. I'll be sure to send around not just our board, but to y'all as well. Then moving in chronological order, we had a nice tie a ribbon on it with the No Vote Capital campaign on July 23rd, and a few of you were there. Thank you for coming. Just a way to acknowledge our major donors and to signal that that campaign has ended. And thanks to the campaign, the indoor and outdoor maker spaces and the playground were able to happen. So I just always, you don't often get to have kind of a milestone moment, with your donors where you're like, you physically manifested something together. But that was pretty profound and a pretty special event. And then we had Andy and Kara and David at our Library Foundation board retreat. Was it just last weekend? No, 2 weekends ago. Time's just
2 weekends.
flashing together.
Where was your
This is
retreat?
retreat month, everybody.
Where was
There's
that?
a lot of library.
Yeah. So we were at the Boulder Country Club.
Boulder
Oh.
Country Club.
Yeah, and touched on had a really great retreat. When Kristen was in here at our joint dinner, she gave you a nice overview of the strategic plan implementation. So we dove a little further into that. We had a guest speaker zoom in from Charlotte, which is 10 million away from a successful $75 million capital campaign for a new central library in Charlotte. She's not just a colleague, but a friend of mine, and gave us some good inspiring ideas. And we'll be probably stealing one next year. So stay tuned for that. We talked about, what is a major gift these days? And this is kind of a fun fact. When you talk about fundraising, oftentimes you hear about an 80-20 rule, and people talk about Pareto's principle. Well, this guy like over 100 years ago figured out that 80% of donations, and it applies to things beyond fundraising, tend to come from 20% of donors. Well, that's exactly true for us with our fundraising last year. And what that meant was that 20% of our donors gave $1,000 or more. So we're at a benchmark that's steadily moving north from over the last several years. We also had a nice conversation that was led by Andy as well as Jeff Quick. Andy, do you want to just kind of talk about what you led us in with the library district relationship? The point was to come up with like, what is the job description? Not in a intergovernmental agreement kind of way necessarily, but just what is the role of these board members that serve in both capacities?
Yeah, I mean, Chris summed it up, but I think we're trying to formalize a little better what the 2 members of our board that also sit on the foundation board, kind of what their respective role is, and the best way for our 2 boards to effectively liaise with each other going forward. So no major surprises there. I think it's a conversation that's going to be ongoing, but it's just a chance for us the foundation overall is trying to formalize its roles a little better, so it's a chance for us to kind of formalize this role in a bit more depth. Yeah, I think it'll be an ongoing discussion, but I think no major surprises. I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
No, I think some of the folks on the foundation board didn't totally, I think some of it was just like laying foundation. And like laying a baseline that we all work from about like why are we on the boards, and is that something that continues or not, and like they weren't sure what kind of information this board gets about what the foundation board does, and so we're just kind of hashing that all
part of the motivation for this, and this is a little deep in the weeds, but the foundation made a somewhat significant change in the last couple of months where it is technically no longer a supporting organization of the library and its tax filing paperwork. It is now a more or less fully independent 501c3 whose mission is still to support the library, but it's technically a little more divorced from the library than it originally was, and there's some fun technical reasons for this, the big one of which is it lets us raise more money in Colorado Gives Day. But because of that, there's kind of this increasing, I don't think it's likely, but there's always the possibility of a conflict of interest between the folks that sit on both boards and the two boards having potentially separate interests at some point. So to try to get ahead of any future problems on that front, we're just trying to kind of formalize some of this stuff now.
Part of our strategic plan implementation is to clean up at what level is our governance calling out certain levels of specific direction. In other words, you have your articles of incorporation, that's essentially your framing document, your constitution, if you will, that's filed with the Secretary of State. It's why the IRS gives you a letter of determination that you are a nonprofit able to receive gifts and give people credit for tax deductibility on their tax returns. At the next level are your bylaws, and our bylaws have a lot of stuff that really is more like policies and procedures in it. So we're kind of stripping those out. Okay, now these are policies and procedures. So a lot of it's housekeeping, and ultimately it's for the good of the order. So thank you, Andy. That was a really generative conversation. And finally, we had polled ourselves about what are our values and norms, and words like trust, collaboration, innovation came up, and so we're working to kind of put more of what does that mean together for us. But all in all, really good retreat. A couple other things, mentioned this last time, but coming up next Tuesday is our next collab with the Boulder bookstore, where David Barron is going to be giving an author talk in the Canyon Theater, which we're hoping to fill up. So our intention with partnering with Boulder Bookstore has been to fill up your theater with some higher level authors. And in order to do that, we're helping to make them whole as a business by paying them half so that they can give a 50% off to everyone who comes in not having to buy a ticket because the library is free and open to all, right? So the way to keep them whole is for the foundation to pay the other 50% on a 50% off. So that's a programmatic expense for us. It worked last time when we had the author of the Buffalo Hunter. What's his name? Remember him in a minute. He's fantastic, a CU professor. And anyway, his book just got mentioned on NPR. And they filled up the theater. So this is what we're looking for, is like, let's get some little higher prestige author talks. So we'll look for that on Tuesday. And then finally with the gala, we have sold out our original offering of tickets and tables. And so we figured out a way to bring in more guests. We're just reconfiguring things. So another 50 seats have just opened up. And meanwhile, if we're successful, I don't see why we wouldn't be. We'll have 450 guests. And it's going to be really cool. There'll be 50, speaking of volunteers, 50 volunteers helping to make that happen. And we have now envisioned a whole program for the whole downstairs of the library where there's Easter eggs for anyone who's read the book. So I recommend, if you're coming, I hope you're all coming, read the book or put it in your ear, listen to it, because there's going to be some stuff that you otherwise would be like, what's that? But if you read the book, you'd be like, no way.
Except we're still not doing a live octopus, right?
What's that?
So we're still not having a live octopus, right?
Real octopus, right?
Real. But find Marcellus. Where's Marcellus? That's going on the scavenger hunt.
I'm just disappointed.
It will be
we're not
obvious
having a
once
live
you find
octopus,
him, but it won't be immediately obvious where he is. Anyway, that's the update.
No, I know exactly why we're not doing it.
Everyone, well, I'm not gonna ask you, but if you, well, I guess that was, everyone attending the foundation thing?
I think between the two of us, we've reached out to everyone and they all either have a seat or are unavailable.
Well, unavailable, okay. One year, Sylvia, you'll not be so busy working, so you can
So I
party
have a
with us.
question for Chris. Do you all adopt the EDI statement?
It's interesting, when we were talking about our values, for example, one part of our conversation was our lane is to support the library's practice of great librarianship. I consider this part of the great practice of librarianship. So far be it for us to get involved in the type of programming that leads to great statements like that. Instead, yes, we are your full partner in your work. We're fully behind you. We're raising money for you. And by association, we fully embrace, like what you're coming up with in that regard. I just don't feel like we've got the we don't yet feel like we've got the chops to be involved programmatically, and so we're following your lead in that regard. We said, and we've talked about it. Well, is this? It feels frankly performative to take one piece of the program, like for example, okay, we want to signal that we're fully behind that. Now, it could be that we want to bring it before our board. Hey, this is an update, know about this, consider it, maybe do something about it. But really, I'd be interested, particularly in our trustees that serve on our board, about how that articulation works. If I had one takeaway from that part of the conversation about how the two boards work together, it's like the more we know, the better we are.
And I think the big question here, Benita, is to whom do you want the policy to apply? Like the foundation has 3 staff and there is a non-discrimination policy with respect to kind of the hiring practices. But the board's a little different, and in some ways, the board is a fundraising mechanism, right? So you are in fact discriminating on the basis of socioeconomic class, because, and part of the discussion at this retreat was, what should the standard donation be for board members? So like, yeah, I mean, it gets complicated, right? There's a tension there between fundraising capacity and what you would traditionally view as DEI values, but to Chris's point, the ultimate goal of the board is to fund the library to do the kind of work we're talking about in the idea statements. So I would be happy, I think, to continue to have that conversation, but there's tension there. We have to think about how we want to resolve that.
Yeah, and the optics, of that. I got it. Okay.
The advertisement for the event next Tuesday, is that through the Boulder bookstore, or is that?
They've been promoting it. The library's been promoting it.
Oh, I can sign up.
I've seen it in their newsletters.
Okay.
If I can get my newsletter out before then, I'll promote it.
Well, I was looking back at your newsletter and couldn't see it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I saw the last one though. That looked cool. I really appreciate it. I think that's awesome. Thank you.
Well, we steal these ideas from our friends all over the country. This one, DC, like they made a really big, strong pitch 2 summers ago. Get with your library, your independent booksellers, and your foundations. Like you all have a role. You can bring big authors in and not spend giant sums.
Yeah.
If you all play your role.
Right. Right.
I mean, we look at it like, okay, we're paying for basically the price of 95 books to pay for half of 190 seats, right? Would I rather pay for 95 books or a tens of thousands of dollars speaker's fee to bring someone in special? If you work with the publisher and the independent bookseller, they're on tour anyway, paying their authors to go around and promote the book that they publish.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's a win-win-win.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to trustee matters. We discussed it already, but the city council meeting, we moved that to the 16th because of other conflicts and the change in this council schedule. It'll be at 5 p.m. somewhere in this library. We'll figure that out. I wouldn't mind being in the cafe.
I just checked Boulder Creek, it is booked.
Well, but I wouldn't mind us just sitting in the cafe. We can have other people milling around. But well, who knows? All right, we'll talk.
Is that the consensus in the group? Like it's
I
like
would,
anybody could.
Would you want to be in here?
I would think about,
I think we'll just do it in here.
there's just a lot of potential for unknowns if we're on the
That's
library
true.
bridge that we may or may not want to focus
You're right.
the conversation around.
That's right.
Could we set up a table in the space out here?
Well, we still have people milling around.
Or even on the side there, but to just,
I
have a
think,
long table.
In the
If it's the
garden?
well, if it's the well, the full board dialogue.
In the gallery? Oh. We don't have
Plus-
food in the gallery.
Uh,
Because we're part.
let's not make people's jobs more difficult, I think, in my view, I hear you, next year we'll figure something out. But, we can, the whole idea was
But
originally.
truly, we have no other space here besides this room. If that's the case, then okay, but just.
Maybe we have to book further in advance, meeting spaces book up early.
Yeah,
We have the Mesa room, but it's half this size. I don't think it would upstairs. It's not, I mean, maybe not even half the size. I don't think it would be comfortable.
Natural light.
yeah,
You'd be bouncing off of people trying to get to the tacos.
Do we have a specific message we are trying to convey to council?
that's what we were talking about, I think basically,
Maybe we can talk about it at the retreat.
yeah, we can talk a little bit, but
Yeah.
I think generally my gut was, we just go over the annual report, which was supposed to be the intent of these meetings. Was that here's the information we've mailed to you or emailed to you, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
'Cause
I
we
mean,
do-
yeah,
You
let's
know,
maybe talk about it a little bit at the retreat.
yeah, let's not put it there. Okay, any other trustee matters? No? Legal counsel updates?
Nothing more.
It's nice to see you in person here.
It's great to be here.
Okay. I'm just thinking, okay, that's it,
See you on Sunday.
see you on Sunday, at what time?
We start at
9 a.m.?
I think you made it
I
9.
think it's
9 a.m.
It
And
was more
which door
leisurely
should
than I
we
originally thought.
enter?
Come through the canyon side?
Okay.
The slide right